Hey folks, welcome back. Right now I'm joined by Matt Domeny, and Matt is going to tell us all about his game, Doomsayers. So, hi Matt, want to tell us
Hello.
about Doomsayers?
Yeah, of course. So Doomsayers is a two-player, three-dimensional area control game for ages 13 and up, and it usually plays in anywhere from 30 to 90 minutes, with most of the games falling right in the middle around that 60-minute mark. And in Doomsayers, you and your opponent are playing as rival deities who are struggling for dominance amidst this apocalyptic firestorm. And so, of course, as a deity, you're going to send out your doomsday prophets and your army of angels to reach as many cities in this realm as you can to warn them of the imminent danger that they are in, and also convince them that you are the only one who can save them. And meanwhile, you're gonna try to divert the destruction from these fireballs away from the cities that have placed their faith in you, and toward the cities that have placed their faith in your opponent. Because once the storm has ended, the player who has the most believers wins.
Cool. Oh my gosh, that sounds epic. So it's a head-to-head competitive sort of game.
Exactly.
Tell me about all these layers. I feel like this is what
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's definitely unique in that sense that it's a three-dimensional board game, and that was actually really kind of the original inspiration for the game, was because, to be honest, I had kind of just gotten tired of playing two-dimensional games. Like, I felt like so much of tabletop gaming was just flat, spread out across a table, which is fine. But I kept thinking I couldn't shake this idea that there's so many missed opportunities for three-dimensional games, and really actually bringing it to a whole nother level, literally.
I love
And I,
that.
I felt like there was so much more strategy that I hadn't considered, and also just kind of making a more immersive experience that literally jumps off the table, and you can almost just kind of watch it unfold in front of you. So
That is so cool. How did you come up
yeah,
with the idea for the game?
yeah. So it actually it started with the board because
Cool.
I knew that I wanted to make a multi-tiered board like this, because when I was really younger, actually, I was playing a game sometimes called Cubic, which is a really old game. I think it's like from the 70s. It's basically just three-dimensional Connect Four, which is fine, but the board that you played it on, it was a four-tiered board like this. It was just a 4x4 grid, where this is a 6x6. But I kept thinking, as when I got older and I wanted to make a three-dimensional board game, I kept thinking of that cubic board because it was so simple, yet it was very elegant and beautiful. But I felt like, because it was just basic grids on planes, that there were so many more cool games that I could be playing on that board that was so much more than just like abstract Connect Four. And so I kind of was playing around with some different ideas, and the first thing that kind of jumped to my head was some sort of like aerial combat game. And for whatever reason, the first thing that came to mind was these armies of angels that were kind of clashing in midair, because I played a lot of like Magic and D&D and stuff, and
Yeah,
had
yeah.
these angel miniatures. And so I'm like, okay, so that's cool. So I kind of started toying around with that idea, and made a basic prototype of it, play tested it with my brother, and we very quickly realized that it was not fun. um
That's
and
always such a disappointing like
yeah,
moment in
it
the design process.
It is, but at the same time, I feel like it's kind of necessary. That was a very crucial turning point, because when we were sitting there, kind of like processing why it wasn't fun, the main takeaway that we got from that session, that is that when you are designing three-dimensional board games, when you're working with a three-dimensional space, one of the most difficult things to do is to incentivize players to utilize 100% of that space. And so, for example, like if I'm up here in this upper right hand corner, what's getting me to go all the way down to the other corner? You know what I mean? So, what we started really thinking about that, and came up with this just general concept of having things that start on the top tier and gradually fall down one tier just throughout the game. And we figured that that would essentially force you to utilize 100% of that three-dimensional space. And I still had that kind of like the angels fresh in my memory.
Mhm.
And as soon as we locked onto that just general concept of things falling, I immediately had this vision of this, apocalyptic firestorm where there's fire raining from the skies and you have like angels flying throughout it. And once we got that as the theme, to be honest, the majority of the game just kind of wrote itself from there. So it was kind of a really cool watershed moment.
That's so cool. I love it when that happens during the design process where like you have where things aren't working, and then you have that one idea that just like brings everything together. That's so
Yeah,
fun.
yeah, exactly. Once we locked on to that idea and started working out kind of like the core mechanics of how it would actually work, we knew we had something pretty special at that point.
That's awesome. So I mean, it sounds like this is not your first time designing a game. So how long have you been designing games?
Yeah, it's not my first time designing a game. I've casually designed games pretty much my whole life. This
Mhm.
this I think is the first one that I've really taken seriously and actually pursued because I believe so strongly that this is just a game that needs to be out there. Because, like I said, I've maybe only seen one other game that even remotely resembles the 3D mechanics of this, and so yeah, so I'm very passionate about it, but yeah, I've been playing board games my whole life, and my brother, who I mentioned, he was like the original play tester for this game.
That's
He's done
awesome.
he's done some game design himself, and so I've helped play test his games, and we kind of go back and forth that
Oh,
way.
cool. So,
Yeah.
are there any other collaborators on the game, or is it just like you and with your some of your brother's input
Yeah,
as well?
yeah, it's the vast majority has been my work, especially
Mhm.
more recently. This project has been in the making. The original concept, that idea that I was talking about, happened 5 years ago at this point. And so back then it was pretty much just me and my brother going back and forth
Mhm.
with it. Then the game just, as sometimes happens, game kind of we hit kind of like a little bit of a wall, and so it got put on the shelf for a while, and then recently, toward the beginning of this year with quarantine, I pulled it back off the shelf and really tried to like work through those kinks, and so it's been mostly me lately. But yeah, it there's been a lot of people that have helped me, friends and family that play tested it and helped me make the prototype that you see here today.
Awesome. So, where are you in production right now? It's you've got a playable prototype, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So, we're pretty late stages of development at this point. Like I said, I would hope so after 5 years. So we've got two copies actually of this prototype to really ramp up the play testing, particularly right now focusing on blind play testing and getting feedback from people just outside my immediate
Mhm.
friends and family. And that's the main focus right now, is to really just kind of like fine tune and tweak those little details to make sure it's just right. But I'm really satisfied with where it is now, and so I'm pretty much ready to start pitching it to publishers.
Amazing.
Yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah.
So, you're working on this, you're about to pitch to publishers. Like, I guess I would say, like, what if someone's trying to do what you're doing, what advice would you give to them about how to get started?
Oh, that's kind of a tough question. Um, But if you have an idea that you feel is worth pursuing, then it's really just a matter of playtesting, 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 you know, and it's just
Hmm.
it's a lot of work, and being willing to, you know, accept that the criticism and the suggestions from the playtesters, I think is really important. And trying to it's tough now, I think, in 2020 to get feedback from a wider variety of people. I guess you could do like tabletop simulator and stuff, but it's hard. It's hard to play test games right now. I feel like right now is actually kind of a good time for two-player games. But but
Definitely. Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, yeah, it's just it's a lot of work. And it's just a matter of kind of believing in your vision for the game while also being able to kind of critique yourself at the same time.
Yeah, that's it's something I've been hearing from a lot of people is that having a playtesting group, it has been so essential to their design process and to being able to actually work out some of those kinks because they don't have insight on what isn't working until all of a
Yeah.
sudden somebody
Yeah.
plays something that they thought was obvious and then it's not obvious to that person and oh, this is actually a problem that people have been having throughout.
Yeah, yeah, that's kind of the ultimate problem there, is because, you know, you have it all up in your head, and that's good, and that's kind of like your guiding light, but you can't possibly think of all the different scenarios and all the different ways that people can perceive your game. So yeah, if I had any advice, it would just be to play test it as soon as possible with as many people as possible.
Excellent advice. So, where can people find out more?
So I do have a small YouTube channel called Doomsayers,
Excellent.
that I've posted a couple videos, just kind of like a basic gameplay trailer and a little bit more in-depth explanation of the rules of how it actually plays. And I plan on uploading some more like full playthroughs of the game, um, actual like you know, hour plus long videos for people who actually want to see what a full game looks like. And so that's a good resource. But if anybody has any sort of questions or inquiries about it, you can always reach me at doomsayers3d@gmail.com.
Excellent. Perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you spending the time and showing us the like what you're working on right
Yeah,
now. And the game looks so cool. It just
thank you.
looks so unique. It's a totally different flavor than a lot of games that are out there in the market already. And so here's hoping that a publisher wants to pick it up and
Yeah.
we can see it on store shelves at some point soon.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks.